Oh, yeah. Wow.
Welcome to Two Guys with Guitars, which is exactly what we are. I'm Eugene Edwards over here. That's Dylan Calogeri right over there. And he's twiddling with knobs and stuff. What are you doing?
I was just turning up our... Yeah. Can everybody hear us?
He's turning up our... Yeah. How would we know?
Yeah.
We can't hear them.
It doesn't make any sense.
Tell Daniel in the chat whether you can hear... What's that?
Turn up Eugene's guitar.
Turn up my guitar. Yeah, man.
You know what? That seems like a fair request.
It's better if I learn how to play slide.
Well, listen.
I beat you, trolls, in the comments, didn't I? I'll get you every time. You think, hey, trolls, you think I don't look in the mirror and say worse? That's right. I'm in showbiz.
What are trolls exactly?
I don't know. I think they charge the people that charge you a fee to go across the bridge.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. They're like municipal people.
Yeah. Well,
just a joke.
Thank you guys for being here today. This is an exciting episode for me and Eugene.
So here's what happened.
It's catharsis.
So we were, well,
Catharsi?
Ooh.
Sing catharsa.
Well, if it was
Cathart.
if it was rooted in Greek, it'd be catharthopedes.
Catharthopedes.
That's right. So talking to Dylan the other day, and I said, well, what do we want to do for the next couple episodes? Some topics, and somehow Bonnie Raitt's "Nick of Time" album came up, and the man lit up like a downtown Christmas tree.
Yeah,
he was hit like mad death energy. I've never seen the man. His hair was on fire.
I get really excited.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
So I said, hey, Dylan, you want to do a deep dive on "Nick of Time" by Bonnie Raitt? And he said,
it's compulsory.
So it's compulsory. It's kind of like these are like some sort of stuff that we had to do for the floor gymnastics, you know?
Exactly. It's compulsory.
It's compulsory. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a look at Bonnie Raitt's "Nick of Time" album and show you some of the things that gives that album its own tone, its own groove. Some of the, if you will, the habits of the songwriting and the playing that made that thing such a runaway success. Actually, in fact, we'll give a little background to it too, because
it's a super varied album with amazing players in it, and just it's like the perfect ingredients for a fantastic pie.
And that's our show.
And
Good night, everybody. We'll see you next.
All right, what else do you want?
Hold on. So okay. So let's set the table. So now, have you ever met Bonnie Raitt?
I have not.
Have you ever seen her in concert?
I have seen her in concert.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So what was your impression seeing her in concert? What did you notice?
I noticed that her voice is, well, first of all, her pitch is as good as it is on the album. That's the first thing I noticed. And I don't believe there was any auto-tune going on.
No, that generation
concert.
of players, they just don't do it.
The other thing I noticed was she's someone who takes her time consistently. And so, like, storytellers, generally, if you guys have ever kind of noticed a really good storyteller, one of the things they do is they take their time.
Right. Good point.
It's the spaces and the stories that allow you to kind of, like, delve in a little bit further, because you become interested in, like, how is this person this relaxed at this moment? You know what I mean?
That's interesting. It's a way that they command their power.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, oh, they're in their own time zone.
Yeah.
They're not in a rush.
Well, they've got something important they're doing, and it's more important than their anxiety.
Oh, ooh.
You know what I mean?
Oh, that's great. There's a tip for those of you who are about, just getting used to playing on stage or just in front of people. Say that again.
So it's like thinking about your performance as something that's important. And this is still to this day, I get nervous when I have to learn a lot of material. But when I'm performing, I'm like, you know what? It's more important that I deliver this well than I pay attention to my anxiety.
So just focus on the material.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So even if you have to do public speaking, let's say you're not just playing guitar, let's say you have to sing or just give a speech or just make it about the material. Just worry about the actual text that you're saying.
Right.
And that will pull you through.
Yeah.
And eventually you get confidence.
Yeah.
I never thought about it that way.
I think it's and I think with someone like Bonnie Raitt, it's really like this tradition, this I've seen a lot of interviews with her, and she's got family history and all of this, and
right, her
a lot
father
of skin
was
in the game.
Her father was a longtime Broadway performer,
right.
Originated a lot of parts, like the part in Oklahoma, and good point.
So she's got a lot of skin in the game, and the craft is too important to let the person get in the way.
So let's speak of that. So she comes onto the scene out of Cambridge, actually. Her first album comes out in 1972, and she's just around. She's around a lot.
Yeah.
Her albums, she made 7 or 8 albums on Warner Brothers.
Baby Bonnie.
They sold okay. She toured a lot, mostly blues, like a lot of just straight up blues stuff. Especially those first couple of albums. It was kind of cute. Yes, that a very young
Baby Bonnie.
She was just singing like these old blues tunes, but it was like this kind of young, precocious, redheaded woman.
Right.
playing guitar and singing. So, but then by the early 80s, she finds that she just recorded an album for Warner Brothers, finished mixing it, or maybe, they finished the final mix. And the next day she gets a letter from Warner Brothers saying, you're being dropped.
That's about how that usually works. Yeah.
So, and then she's still under contract for 3 years. She kind of can't do anything.
Right. Because they own you.
Because they kind of got you. And so she doesn't know what to do. And then a few years later, they decide, we're going to put the album out. You mind touring that? She was like, I guess I have to. So she's out there, she's touring, but it's a low point, so to speak. Now, here's what's interesting. So then, and so she can't afford to keep her band, her longtime band. So now she goes on the road. She's just kind of doing acoustic shows or just solo guitar shows, singing, playing. Sometimes she can afford a bass player, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Prince sees her on this tour and is a big fan and says, hey man, I'd like to sign you to Paisley Park Records.
Not unlike Prince was signed and helped a lot by Rolling Stones and
kind of thing,
Kiss, right? Was it?
No,
Gene
just Rolling
Simmons?
Stones.
Just the Rolling Stones.
You're thinking of Van Halen.
I'm thinking of Van
helping.
Halen. Yeah. I mixed those two up.
So he says, hey, I'll sign you to Paisley Park. And she goes, okay, wow, I'm going to be with Prince. That's probably going to be a lot of video stuff. So she quits booze. She kind of starts exercising, gets herself into shape, looking great, sounding great. And then the deal with Prince doesn't work out. She also meets Don Was. And he was a producer who his track record was a little shaky, actually,
a little sketchy.
Yeah,
of course, that.
Was a huge hit, and he's produced like a Carly Simon album, a couple of other stuff, but wasn't really hitting his stride. Yeah. And so they did a track together for an album that was a bunch of Disney songs. She does "Baby of Mine" from the Dumbo movie. Dumbo.
Gotta be Dumbo.
Anyway, gorgeous track. I said, that worked. So, do you want to produce my next record? And Don says, okay. And so they recruit a bunch of songs and they get them together first. Now, so the Nick of Time album is made up of mostly covers, except for 2 songs that Bonnie did. Right.
They're not even written by her at all.
No,
actually. Yeah.
Just 2 songs are the opening track, Nick of Time, and the closing track, which is The Road Is My Home.
Yeah.
Everything else is essentially a cover. But which is interesting because the album comes across as her telling her story. It seems like such a personal, but that's the quality of the singer.
I think that's what it is. The singer is telling the story. They're the messenger at that time, much like a speech writer may have written a speech, but who brings it to life?
So at Don's house, they demo all these tunes. They get them really straight, and like 14 different labels pass, like 14 pass. Finally, somebody at
Capitol.
I wonder
how they're feeling about that right now.
Right. Well, somebody at Capitol Records wants to sign her.
A little place called Capitol Records.
His boss says, "Over my dead body." So he goes around him. He goes up to the president, Hale Milgram, who was signing really cool stuff at the time, actually. And Hale says, "For Bonnie, yeah, let's do that." But they basically give her like 150 G's, which is like that would be like a rookie contract,
especially at the time.
At that time.
Nowadays, it would be basically you're able to
So they have these songs, so they know these songs so well, and they get some great musicians in LA. They go to Ocean Way Studio and they cut this thing in like a week.
Yeah,
they go to average like 2 songs per day.
You can tell because there's a lot of can we talk about this for a second?
I want you to
the sound of this album. Can we talk about the sound of this album?
Let's talk about the sound.
So when you guys listen to this, you're going to hear a lot of room noise. You're going to hear I don't mean bad room noise. I'm saying that it's a room mix a lot of the time. Now, Nick of Time, interestingly, probably a word.
Sure,
it sounds pretty isolated, meaning like you hear everything as a compartmentalized instrument. But as we start moving along the album, it's almost as though they ran out of time, or they didn't have like I don't know what it is, or in the nick of time, they were just able to come up with a plan. But there's a lot of like this room ambiance, which actually gives it this like bar sound. Like you're in a club and everything, you're hearing the reflections of everything as they're performing. It's badass. That's one of the reasons I like the album so much, is because it's so raw.
Yeah, it's general. If you look at the credits, there's a general house band, if you will. So they're all listening to each other very, very well. Yeah. A lot of these guys, like Ricky Fataar on drums, who I think is like the secret guy coming off the bench. His grooves are fantastic. There's this fill he does on Thing Called Love that still just drives me. Is in a verse, and he does this weird draggy thing. And Ricky Fataar had been. He was with the Beach Boys in the early 70s, but he's in the Ruddles movie, actually. Yeah. So that's pretty good.
Hey,
go ahead.
Speaking of Thing Called Love, I mean, can we play it?
Oh, okay. So, you ready to hear some music? Okay.
Is it okay? Daniel, is it okay if we play
Can we get
Thing Called
approval?
Love? Has anybody said anything?
No.
About, are we allowed to play it?
They probably love that. They do want to know what Eugene's tuning is, right?
Oh, that's a good question.
I was going to get to, okay, so notice this. So this is an open A. Notice, look, Mon, no brains. You're hearing an A major chord some tune. So it's E,
Very offensive to
A,
the brainless, by the way.
E, A, C sharp, and E. So it's as if you're playing, one of these A chords, but wide open. Now on the album, she tends to play in this tuning and open G, which is this whole thing, but just a whole step lower. But for Thing Called Love, which is key of A, she's in this tuning. So, and then I'm going to talk about, I'm going to have to, in order to play, I'm going to put my slide on my middle finger, which I'm not used to doing, but that's just how this is going to go. Okay, so I'm going to sing it an octave lower than Bonnie too, because I don't have her range. But here we go. Here's a shot at just a snippet of Thing Called Love, so you can kind of get an idea of what the sounds are and some of the grooves. Oh, sorry. I just muted myself. Keep going. Don't have to humble yourself for me. I ain't a judge or your king. Now, baby. I just realized I need my glasses. Keep going.
That's right. Bam.
That's why we're doing the show live, everybody. Oh, look at you. Oh, I'm doing the show with Dylan. I didn't know. We may not have our dignity. This could just be a powerful thing. No, baby, it takes two. You ain't no amoeba. Chorus. Are you ready for a thing called love? They come from me, it comes from up above. I ain't no porcupine, take off your kid gloves. Are you ready for a thing called love? That's a snippet there. All right.
Yeah.
I only need the glasses. All right. I only need the glasses for reading. So. Oh, gosh. All right. So,
sorry about that.
What did we hear? Well, first of all, we heard this groove. Let's talk about the bass line.
Yeah.
Can you just talk about the groove, the pocket and the bass line here that you indicated so well on your guitar?
So it's a interlocking pattern, right? So it's this that type of a pattern that has like it's all about the cutoffs on something like that. So when you hear that against the drums, it's got a lot of space that's in there for the guitarist to jangle away, and they do. There's quite a bit of jangling.
Yeah, Johnny Lee Schell plays acoustic, and he's singing the backup on that song. It's a really, really sweet guy. In fact, I don't know if he was playing with her beforehand, but I know that I think to this day he's still on the road with Bonnie Raitt because he just adores her so much. And he's just got this great right hand, this great lazy shuffle going on. And you're right, there's a lot of space when you listen to the record. That bass line,
the whole, yeah.
I mean, everyone's.
Is it Nathan East on bass?
No, it's Hutch. Hutchinson.
Okay, so he might have been a live bass player later on.
Oh yeah. So, and then I want you to notice how this song is in the key of A major. However, the chord work really borrows from the blues scale. Right. So we have this A major. I'm singing. I ain't the judge of your king. Then it goes to the minor 3 chord. Baby. Then the flat 7. You know, I ain't no queen of Sheba, back to the 1. So in the blues scale, we would have, instead of a major 3rd, we'd have the flat 3rd. Instead of the major 7, we'd have the flat 7. So it's just, and John Hyatt wrote this brilliant song, by the way. So he's using, would you call this chord scale a blues chord scale, or is that really not a thing?
Well, we call it like modal mixture or borrowed chord.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
There's C.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bubble pipe.
So everything's a major chord.
It's a major chord.
But we're hearing like the minor 3rd instead of like C sharp. We're hearing C and G, and then abruptly, the chorus changes to F major, and then it's a simple 1. It's a simple 1 4 5.
That's one of the most unexplainable parts of the song.
It really just. I mean,
theorists were very confused.
Does it drop to a flat 6, or does it go up?
I'd say it goes up. but it drops
It
in the
feels like a lift.
sound. Yeah,
so
it's
yeah,
a
so you have
definite
this
lift.
A major.
Here we go.
And then, are you ready for a thing called love? You know, so you feel that song, it just like goes up. There's an optimism there, and and then they go through this a couple times. Thing called love. Are you ready for it? Then D major. Thing called love. Pivot chord.
It's a pivot chord, and see that's what's missing. Well, before I explain this, Daniel, do we have any questions?
No. So people can get their questions in if they'd like.
So if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to let us know. I know last time when Barrett was here, we mostly just yammered on, but we'd love to hear from you today. And thank you guys so much for being here as always, right? So generally when you modulate, there's a pivot chord, or that's called a prepared modulation. This is called a direct modulation.
Yeah.
Which means there is no warning and there's no there's no sort of transferring or modulation.
No segue.
Or section. No segue, right. And so that's a really interesting approach because it's jarring to the listener unless it's handled well by the performer.
Here's what's really interesting about this, though. So they're in the key of A major. Now, the first note that Bonnie sings when they go to F major is A natural. And then go to... Are you ready for... She sings A natural.
It's a common country thing to sing the third in the melody, too.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just a very,
It
very...
goes country all of a sudden.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
And I want to point out now, just like about Bonnie's style, let's talk about the slide real quick.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's compulsory.
Oh, I'm sorry, but the pivot chord of D major, before we do that, how do they get back to A major? This time they do use a segue.
Yeah.
They do use a pivot chord.
Right.
They use D major, which would be the minor third of F. So it would be the blues chord in our new key of F, but it's also the 4 of our previous key of A major. So it's really kind of, I mean, what other chord would you use to get yourself back
Well, you'd
to
have
the
to go,
key of A? What was that, G?
That was E. So,
Oh, right. Oh, okay. Yeah,
or this is C,
that could work too.
which also works.
But
Yeah.
the D majors really, really hit. And then they're back to A.
And they're back to A. Yeah.
So let's talk. So now we're going to talk about a little bit about what's going on here. So it's relatively unusual. Bonnie Raitt plays slide on her middle finger, on the middle finger, always has. And I met her once, and I had a quick discussion about guitars with her, and she said that she doesn't really, I mean, it just kind of, and she kind of made a joke. She says, I must have flipped the bird a lot as a little girl, and I just got used to isolating my middle finger, and that was just easier. I think what she also found was that she could fret notes above the slide. So I play it with my pinky. But once I do
Me
this,
too. Yeah.
I can't fret anything above where the slide is. You're thinking, well, why would you? Well, in this song, notice in the chorus, especially when Bonnie goes to F, and when she goes in the chorus, she can kind of do the
It's just hard to play slide with your middle finger, though.
what she's playing with her whole life.
Yeah. It'd be
So
hard
there
for
it
me.
is. Now, I also spoke. I know Jason Isbell is kind of one of the only other players I know that plays it on his middle finger.
Does he really?
But because he, as a little boy, his mom took him to see Bonnie Raitt, and he saw that and just thought, I guess that's how you do that. And hit the lick to his song 24 Frames, he plays on the reggae triple tracked it, but it's, oh, sorry.
Which is pretty tough, you guys. It's hard to slide and fret a note at the same time because the amount of a
But that's
pressure
really,
you need.
But I remember when I first started, I thought, wow, I thought he was doing a leap from 12th fret to 15th, you know, which takes some accuracy.
Yeah. Does she use a bottle slide or?
Yeah, she's using a Dunlop bottleneck, like glass.
Oh, okay.
And so anyway,
It's the neck or it's the whole? It's the whole bottle like that.
I think it's the whole bottle.
Okay.
Of course, I got a small one for my pinky, so this doesn't fit over my
Daniel,
entire.
is there a way for us to find out if she uses the bottle? What kind of slide Bonnie Raitt uses?
Yeah, it's
I believe in the research we have that she uses a Dunlop bottleneck slide.
it's probably the full bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds about right. That, I think from my memory of seeing her play, it seems like it's a full bottle. So, so this is if you're learning to play slide, if you think about it, it's an option.
Yeah.
I mean, in the da 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 da. You know, now another thing the other thing she did when she first started playing slide, and she saw Lowell George, if you guys don't know who
Lowell, anybody named Lowell
George, the guy from Little Feat, fantastic slide player. He played a Strat, and she says, "Can you give me any tips on how to play slide on electric guitar?" And he just grabbed a Dynacomp pedal and handed it to her and didn't say anything.
That sounds about right.
So, and I think for a long time she was using the CE2, which
So
we
it's a
just
compressor
referenced.
is what
It's a
he's saying.
compressor. I'm sorry. We just mentioned the Boss CE2 compression pedal.
CE2. He's got
So
a Keeley on there.
So, well, she didn't have the Keeley mod. She just
Didn't have
used
the
a
Keeley
straight
mod.
up
That's why she
CE2.
didn't like the C. That's why it didn't work out.
No, she had it for a long time, but now she's gone back to Dynacomp actually.
So she was using the CE2 for a long time.
Long time. So the reason you would use a compressor when playing slide,
It's just going to bring the sound to the front. It'll give you a lot of sustain.
and it really, really helps bring up that floor. So it goes, and she's really good about like letting you listen to a thing called Love too. You can hear the neck noise going on. She's not interested in muting a lot for effect. You kind of hear the. Like you'll hear a lot of that glassy noise for effect.
It's definitely like Mississippi style, or there's a few names for those, and I'm not. It's not like I play slide all the time. There's you can go deep into slide. You can go to slide land where you get in a lot of trouble. Daniel, do we have questions out there?
Well, you have some questions.
Okay.
Oh, let's field some questions. Sorry, I wasn't looking.
No worries. Yeah. Let's see. What is it? What is the difference between like a glass slide or a metal slide or a ceramic slide?
I'll tell you what. Okay, you might have to answer this because in my opinion, once the amp is loud enough, I don't know that I really hear the difference.
The difference is pretty pronounced from the player's perspective, though. And even more important than the material is the thickness.
That's what I was thinking.
So whatever you guys do when you're checking out slides, maybe it's however thick it is going to have a really big difference in the way it feels while you're playing with it. And I would equate the thickness to the thickness of your neck. So if you guys have played guitars with really thick necks, they can be like kind of hard to associate as well with what you're doing, but in this case they sound better, and so do thick slides, by the way.
So like this is a relatively thin slide, and my guess is that Bonnie's slide is not particularly thick. Now, interesting to note, on that, she calls her Strat Brownie.
Yeah.
You
have to play light with a thin slide. That's what's tough.
Because she's using open tunings when she's tuning up quite a bit.
Yeah.
She uses a gauge, her string gauge, like she's using 13s.
I was going to say that'll help
really
a lot.
Heavy gauge of strings. Now, when you have a thicker gauge of strings, they're just louder.
Yep.
And so you don't have to hit them as hard.
Right.
And I think you can
and
be pretty
the
light.
thin slide's okay.
The thin slide.
The thick slide will cut through pretty easily.
So if you have like a really light touch, so there's a lot going into like setting up a guitar for slide. I didn't set this up for slide. In fact, it took a while for this thing to stay in tune before we went live.
It really does.
Because I have a floating bridge and yada yada.
Metal slides have a lot of extra noise related to the sliding themselves. So they create quite a bit. It's kind of like a metal pick. If you've ever heard that with a metal pick is super pronounced, right? So a metal slide has quite a bit of slide sound on top of the actual sliding. And then ceramic slide is actually probably one of the prettiest sounding slides of all of them.
Very
Joe Perry
smooth.
uses ceramic slide. There's quite a few other people. I actually use ceramic slide quite often.
I love ceramic on a lap steel.
It's
ceramic slide is real, just chef's
it's
kiss.
magnifique.
Oh, it's fantastic.
But it's also big always because you can't really get that finite in ceramics. Maybe if you're better than the person making my slides. But there's some issues with ceramic slides as well, right? So they're heavy is one of the biggest issues. The slide itself is quite heavy. That's actually, I like that. This slide is super light. If you grabbed a slide that a lap steel uses, it's going to be like holding a metal rod.
In some societies, we just got engaged.
Yeah. Yeah. Well.
Okay. So so they make the album. They make the album. And they put out the album, okay?
Put out the album.
In like I don't know, like
Make the album.
Like March of
89?
89,
Yeah.
they put it out, and it just kind of has a slow roll, kind of hanging in there, kind of, and then the next year it wins the Grammy for Album of the Year.
And
it
a couple more,
It
right?
wins like 3 or 4 Grammys, and it's got this great and Thing Called Love has this fantastic video with a very flirty Dennis Quaid.
Yeah.
And that thing really sends it. And so by April,
The video's pretty good, actually. It's pretty funny.
By April of 1990, the album's #1.
Yeah.
It's a #1 album, and
Quite a few songs
her
are
life
getting
just
hot.
changed. And yeah, exactly. So another song we love, actually, I think it's the song that's right after Thing Called Love on the track order, is Love Letter.
Yeah.
So talk to me about Love Letter.
So Love Letter is an interesting song because okay, so first off, the lyrics of Love Letter are awesome. So it's a little creeper, right? But she's the creeper. She's waiting out in front of the house. She's
Mm-hmm.
smoking cigarettes. She's got a pile of empty cigarettes. She's done. She's been smoking there for hours. And it's basically like the concept is, it's that, writing a love letter to someone that's not in love with her at that point. And a lot of the songs are about requited love, if you haven't noticed.
Oh, yeah.
Like all the way from this album to the next album and on. There are a lot of the songs about requited love. It's a popular topic in music.
And it can't go unnoticed that this album did very, very. One of the reasons this album did well is she was addressing topics that were of practical concerns to, as they would say, women of certain age, which of course she was 39 or 40 at the time, so that's
which
a kid
is still
to me.
though. But think about this for a second: 39 or 40 to be starting out as your
in the music business
is
as a
actually
woman.
like Roger Federer status right there.
Oh,
like you're
nice
up there.
analogy.
You know what I mean? Daniel, before I go on, do we have any other questions that I didn't answer?
Sorry.
Yeah, John wants to know if Eugene,
John.
do you mute the strings behind the slide when you play?
Well, see, that's another good.
He
interest.
wasn't.
I wasn't. Now you can,
You're
obviously,
supposed to.
and you're supposed to. So again, that's for me. That's like when the slide's on the pinky, then I naturally do. So you just heard note. You didn't hear any string noise, right? Because I had all three fingers right behind were muting. But if I don't, let's just say I don't use those fingers at all, and
You just hear a lot of extra noise.
a lot of ghost notes and things happen.
Yeah.
Now, so Bonnie, of course, when she's middle finger, she only has the index finger now.
I don't think she's muting either. She must be on the slow songs though. Because you would hear a lot of like noise if she wasn't doing it. So
Right.
I think she's doing it when she's doing a lot of single note stuff. But there's some dirty slide parts, and by
really
dirty
are.
I don't mean bad. I mean dirty like
you hear
it's
the
dirty. It's like ugh. Daniel's a great slide player. Hey, by the way, before I go on, who wants Daniel to come on the show?
Daniel should be a guest.
Who thinks if you guys could comment and join the campaign to get Daniel on the show? But Daniel, tell us, do you play slide with your finger behind the slide?
I do. I tend to place it on my ring finger, but I also have a guitar set up for my slide.
So he said he places it on his ring finger, but he's got a guitar set up for
Yeah,
slide.
are you guys hearing me? You guys can hear me okay?
I can't hear you actually, but
I can get a little closer. Here's my radio
I don't know.
voice.
I'm wondering if maybe your mic is messed up. But
I'm
yeah,
hearing myself come through, I think, the stream. But yeah,
Okay.
I have a guitar set up for slide.
he's got a guitar just set
I
up
wouldn't
for
say
it.
I'm particularly great at slide, but it is something I'm super interested in.
We have a couple friends, mutual friends, who are exceptionally good at slide.
Oh yeah.
Me and Daniel. Yeah, and I'm sure you do too. Yeah.
Can you mute me because I'm going to switch guitars? Mute me, please. I don't know who mutes me.
Oh, I can't.
You can't
Just
mute
go
me.
for it. Yeah.
All right.
Hand it to me. I'll
Go
hold
for
it.
it. We love that sound.
Baboosh. All right, don't do this at home, you guys. Listen, this is like smoking in the library right here. So, yeah, I don't know.
But hey, real quick, in regard to my setting up of the guitar, a few of the people in the
Sorry,
stream.
really quick in my
whole time.
jeez.
Oh man.
Yeah, boy, that was fun.
A couple people in the stream are asking if you need to set up a guitar with higher action to play slide well.
Well, I mean, it's easier, but I don't, and I play it at gigs all the time, and my action's relatively low. It's actually not that low, but it's just you have to have a really light touch if you're going to play guitar without high action.
You might want to use a thinner slide if you do.
Which is harder for me. I really don't do that well with thinner slides, so...
so use a heavy slide
I use a heavy
with
slide
low
with
action?
low action, and that means you just have to be pretty precise, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But those are the factors. Here's the variables, right? So the thickness of the slide, the type of the slide, which is pretty obvious to everybody.
Yeah.
And then the action and the gauge of the strings. We'll put that under the same umbrella. And, one great thing to do is have one guitar. Like, let's say you guys have bought in a couple guitars now, and you just make one your slide guitar.
That's the idea.
Slide's really fun,
Oh,
by the way.
yeah, it's great.
And it develops your ear quite a bit, too. So,
Well, it's really good for ear training.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, George Harrison used a glass slide, and he had a couple of Strats, like Rocky, the one that's all psychedelic painted. He eventually had that set up for slides. So a little heavier gauge string, kind of raise the bridge a little bit.
I have a wild story about glass
and,
slides.
and then you have to sort of adjust the pickups maybe a little bit, right? Because of the pull?
On glass, not as much.
Oh, okay. Okay, good.
I see the pull of the strings.
Yeah.
Yeah. If there are up pretty high.
Then you're fine.
Yeah.
So what's
But
the story?
On metal, you might want to do that if you're going to be doing over here a lot.
Right.
But the story is we were driving to a gig in Reno, and we're driving from Sacramento. I think we're playing at Circus.
I have a question already.
Nope. No, you may not. And so we're driving to the gig, and we get pulled over, which was common. I think I don't know what it was. I feel like maybe we were profiled. No, I'm just joking. I think we were just pulled over a lot, and so they pull out my bag, my guitar bag with all the stuff in it, and of course, we're being searched for whatever. I don't know what.
Sure.
I'm waiting for the cavity search to come, and like there's a bunch of glass slides, and the cop holds them up. It was like, what do we got here? And I was like,
otherwise known as vials.
I was like, what do you mean? What do we got there? What are you talking about?
And then, and if I've learned anything from comedies in the 70s, they made you set up all the gear right there side of the road and prove that you could play.
Yeah,
right?
and
just kind of make
and
sure
that's
this is
how
not
I
your
first
cover.
played Bonnie Raitt was at that gig in front of the cops at the weighing station, the truck
boy,
station.
we could
This
tell
is a true
stories.
story. It's not. It's a true story.
Oh no, I played a weekend gig. I played a casino. I don't know where it was. I don't know. I was towards Palm Springs somewhere, and
Fancy Springs.
sure.
Yeah.
And I walked in, of course, with a guitar case, and,
Yeah.
and the security guys. I'm sorry, I do have to look in there. All right,
Yeah. Well.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead. And he opened it, and then he's, oh really, Telecaster? I was like, wow. No,
Okay.
that didn't
Now
happen.
that
was
that
crazy.
was inappropriate.
So no, I said, and then I pointed. Now I still had not brought in my pedal board, which is in a big metal case. I says, you're gonna really want to look
yeah.
at that.
Wait. When the nuclear football
because
comes
that's
in.
just thin wires
Yeah.
randomly.
Wait until the
Just-
nuclear football.
it's
I
just
could literally.
die-cast boxes with wires coming out of it.
You seen that
What
scene in
could go
Terminator
wrong?
2? Yeah.
So
Sorry.
yeah, that's anyway.
Okay.
Where were we? Love Letter. Right. Pretty cool. And then it's got this really, so it just works these blues changes in E, and then it's got this really cool lift going before the chorus.
It goes,
Push comes to shove, love comes to touch then. Working on a love letter.
This song has boogie in it. It's
such
got
a great
so much
groove.
boogie in it. Yeah.
But notice how it does this really interesting change though going before the chorus, because we're basically just grooving in E major, and then there's this C, then D, and then E. Well, actually, it goes to A actually.
But the song's in E, so
Song's in E.
if you're thinking this is flat 6, flat 7, 1.
Now,
is we're expecting it to go.
Remember that, because we're gonna this flat 6, flat 7 move, which you mentioned a couple episodes ago.
Yeah.
This is gonna, again, to you chord folks out there. You're gonna see that happen in another song on this record, and I'll explain probably why.
Well-
but for now, what's really interesting is that it really sets up. It really creates this anticipation, doesn't it?
and
Let's
it's-
talk about how do the
it's
chords make you
deceptive.
feel?
It's deceptive.
Push comes to shove, love comes to touch, and
So you want, and I'll tell you why. Because of this.
Because of Andy Summers?
Because of Disney. Because Disney songs, a lot of them end with flat 6, flat 7, 1. So does a lot of gospel.
The Sherman Brothers.
So you're waiting for that to happen, and she doesn't give it to you.
Then the one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And so it's a little bit of a little juke move there.
Yeah, it's a little bit of the old 1-2 Dutch door act.
Talk about unrequited.
It's unrequited chords.
Unrequited chords. The name of our episode.
Daniel, are we good here? Can we keep going? Or
You can keep going. I have something. I have a couple
Yeah, go
questions. They're mostly talking about the guitar setup for slide.
well, it's
guitarists-
understandable. It's a.
Actually, you do tons of setup work, so I'm going to let you
Yeah.
take over there.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
do slide guitarists prefer a flatter radius, or what radius does Bonnie use? And if you're gonna set up a guitar
Wow.
for slide, what tuning would you use?
I would go with open E for my first open tuning, personally. Either open
Yes.
E or open A, but
No, and may I-
Open D,
here's
possibly.
here's why I suggest open E. 'Cause most of us, when we're learning how to play chords. We learned that open E chord. And when we start learning bar chords, one of the first ones we do is we learn how to, especially Cage system, is learn how to just take that chord, use our index finger as a capo. So as I play a G chord and first, okay, there you go, and there's your A. And you realize I can play all major chords if I just hold this shape.
With a single shape.
So we learned that early on, and then we say, hey, I want to learn how to play slide. So if you tune the guitar to open E, your mind is already kind of looking at the neck, like it associates the 5th fret with A major, the 8th fret with C major, 10th fret with D major, and so on. So it's kind of easy to keep track.
Yeah, it's not too much of a departure.
Right. Also, when we use open tunings, this is where learning our chord tones and scale tones really, really come into play.
Yeah.
Because instead of trying to do the algebra of, okay, I'm in open E, and now I'm at the 5th fret, so when I play the G string at the 5th fret, this is probably going to be now a C sharp. Instead of doing that, you just know you're playing the major third.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's my major third, there's my 5th, there's my,
It's
so
like
you just
the number system.
So you really play more or less working the number system a little more. I know a lot of pedal steel players kind of really, because there's so much to keep track of, they kind of think in terms of that. So open E is really good. Also, Dwayne Albin used open E a lot. So you can kind of, it's, now of course his precision, especially by that Fillmore East album, is so exquisite. That's the part that takes a long time. But you'll be surprised how close you are with an open E tuning to a lot of really, really classic stuff. Stay With Me by The Faces is an open E tuning.
Yeah, and it's hard to play without being an open E tuning correctly.
Yeah, exactly. So I just changed one.
It's not easy at all.
Yeah, So you've got that going for you. So I'm sorry to interrupt on that one, but I just wanted to jump in. The open E is a really
open E is what I would go with
because
because there's so much parallel in your understanding. And then in terms of, was there another part to that, Daniel?
Yeah, the radius, and maybe what radius does Bonnie use?
That I don't know about, because the neck on her Strat, I think it's from like an unknown year, if I'm not mistaken. Let me.
The radius isn't going to make a huge deal unless you have 7.25 and the action's too low.
Oh,
that could be an issue. If it's like a maple neck 70s deluxe Telecaster or a reissue of that.
Yeah, it's a six. Her Brownie is a 65 body with a neck from an unknown year.
Probably 9.5.
Yeah,
so I wouldn't worry about the radius too much.
She bought it for a whopping $120.
The action is a pretty big deal though. And that was the third part, right, Daniel?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so the action you definitely might have to raise. And one of the things about changing strings, right, string gauges is the amount of tension on your guitar is going to change. So, and even things like the nut might not accompany the strings well. So if the nut doesn't have enough divot in it, or if there's not enough, ground out nut for you to be able to use the new strings, they won't lay in the nut slot correctly.
Also, when we talk about that light touch thing, Bonnie also, when she plays slide, she uses finger picks.
Yeah.
Hers are hand.
Which is pretty common.
They're custom made for her now. But also, so if you notice, it also helps when you're learning to play slide, you will end up, I know I do, I'll end up using my other fingers for a lot of the muting.
Sure.
Keeping the other strings quiet. I kind of, maybe because of my rockabilly background, when I play slide, I'm really kind of doing kind of a Travis picking version of it, believe it or not. And I've seen my hero, George Harrison, also will alternate between using the pick for the note or his fingers, believe it or not. Like he'll alternate. There's some footage of him playing. Now in this case, I've got the pick just tucked the whole time because I'm kind of doing this. But then when he does like more than one string, then he goes to the pick. And then back to just single finger plucking, however you want to call it. So experiment with, keep your eye on that too.
Yeah. So if you guys are interested in playing slide and you're new to it, I wouldn't let the barrier to entry stop me from it. I would just buy a slide and go for it.
Open tuning.
Yeah.
Start
or
messing
even
around.
regular tuning, and you just kind of try to see, because you figure out that you need to be sort of on top of the fret to play with the slide to hear the note that you want to hear, and that takes quite a bit of time to get used to doing.
Here's my tip: if you're going to do standard tuning, I think in terms of my G or A shape, because I've got this major triad on the D on the D, G, and B string.
Right.
So I know
you got a lot of those.
There's my C major triad.
Yeah.
There's my F.
Right.
There's my G. And I can play up, I can slide up to my major third. There's my root from flat 7 to root.
That's like the best first lick for slide. That's the one I would show somebody. Yeah, so just that. So if they're in A, it'd be like that, like but with a slide. That. Just try to get that in tune. And you're gonna see that you have to get the slide right over the top of the like adjoining fret to the next fret up to be able to hear the right sound. And that's also if you wanted to play fretless bass or fretless guitar if you're really strange. Which you're strange and cool though. Strange and cool.
Get pulled over in Reno.
Then yeah, right. I don't want to get pulled over with a fretless guitar. Can you imagine? Where's the frets on this thing?
What have you done with them?
What are you smoking with them? That's what I want to know. Let's just take him to jail.
I don't think of him as frets, officer. I think of him as rails.
Exactly. Oh, now you're really going down.
No,
pal.
I don't mean that.
Throw the book at him. Cavity. I don't know.
I gotta make an appointment.
Yeah. That's what it was. It had nothing to do with. But yes, so hopefully does that help, Daniel?
Probably.
Yeah.
Oh, did? Oh,
It does. Good. All right, good. Can we talk about a tender?
Okay, so
A tender
this
moment
is the song
on this album?
Dylan has a his big song for this album. I hate to speak like as if you're not in the room, but I know this is a lot for you. I get a text. It's just we have to talk about Have a Heart.
It wasn't like that. It was like
it was sort of like,
that was my favorite song.
Okay. So now Have a Heart is written by a San Francisco area singer-songwriter named Bonnie Hayes. Now she wrote Love Letter, and she also wrote Have a Heart. So there's two songs by Bonnie Hayes on the album, and both songs have flat 6, flat 7 to the 1 before going to the chorus.
This song is weird because it starts on the inversion of the 1 chord too, because it's
the third and the bass. Talk about that. Like, just put your professor hat and teach him about that first inversion.
So as a professor, I'll show you what we're learning first. So. It's like, hey, shut up. It's just like because he tells you to shut up right out of the way.
By the way, she originally wrote this song for Huey Lewis.
Oh, really?
Kind of wanted a reggae thing for Huey Lewis, which is, can you imagine Huey Lewis, like a guy just saying, hey, shut up, in a love song? Probably better off going to Bonnie, I think, going to Bonnie Raitt. So, I'm sorry, continue.
High right here, and that's that same Disney ending, right? That's your
when you really want a cinematic, if you're writing songs and you really want a cinematic moment, like and in the end the love you take is equal to the love you make, boom, 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 and then a Dorian, but then E flat, da, 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 da. The one, so it's a flat 3, 4, then the 1, but he kind of sets up this use those flat chords, push them up.
So the songs Have a Heart, and if you haven't heard it, one of the things that's so interesting about this song is it's really slow, and it's hard to play this slow. 1 as an individual, and 2 as a band. So if you think I'm wrong, set your metronome to like, I don't know, 52 and screw around at 52.
That's almost Ray Charles' death tempo.
Yeah, you're going to just be like, wow, Funeral March is what we're looking at here. And so it's hard to groove also slow because when you think of groove, you're thinking of syncopations of a note. So if it's chicka, 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 it's that allows the groove to happen, right?
Sure.
And then when you're going slow, there's tons of space.
A lot of room for error.
So you have to start subdividing in your mind as you're playing to be the... I'm not going slow enough. And so that's the concept behind it. But so it almost forces people to kind of like do some kind of undulation if you're going to play really slow in time, right?
Undulations.
And then the other thing is that...
now I know why I got pulled over.
The backgrounds are so great. I mean, it's like one of the greatest parts about Bonnie Raitt is she's got kind of a country feel in her stuff, and the backgrounds are country status.
Right, but
You know?
over a track which feels very
Reggae.
Reggae.
It's
that's
a
again,
totally
this
competing
album has
themes.
so many grooves.
Yeah.
You've got like the straight ahead rock of Thing Called Love. You've got a straight up blues shuffle on the last song called
yeah.
The Road
and
the Road's My
Love
Home.
Letter too.
And Love Letter. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean there's some R&B.
Nick of Time is it's like a light shuffle, like a what would that be? I don't know. We'll come back on that.
It's a bit of and then there's a 6/8 country ballad.
Yeah, that thing is
Too
really
Soon to
cool
Tell,
too.
which has great chords. And J.D. Manis on slide guitar. And
Do we have questions on that before I go on?
We're
Daniel?
almost out of time, dude.
really?
We do have. Oh, sorry. We do have a specific question back to slide.
Okay,
Wow.
back
well,
to
slide's a popular topic.
Yeah.
So
Slide
what
is
can
a
you do?
popular.
Well, by the way, I was recently on that Jim Jeffries podcast. It was all about guitar.
Okay, we're talking about slide.
Well, at the end, I was asked, "Who's an underrated guitar player?" And this is before I knew we were going to do this episode. I said, I don't think we talk about Bonnie Raitt enough as a guitar player, particularly slide. So, getting back to this again for the tone, she tends to, at least on stage, she uses a Black Cat made here in California. It's a
You guys ever heard of Black Cat amp?
it's a boutique amp,
really good.
a single 12
It's kind
combo.
of like it's an EL34 amp, so it's like a Marshall.
Yes, it is.
It's like the equivalent.
Or Voxy. It's very British rock, if you will. And then I think she uses like a Rat Proco for a little distortion.
Wow.
But not
I did not see
crank.
that
No,
coming.
yeah, but I don't think the gain's turned up a whole lot. It's
Okay.
just, and then the compressor, right?
Yeah.
And then one of the things about when she's playing slide, one of the hallmarks, if you will, is, and I don't even know exactly what the question is, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So what we really, if you want to like imitate the Bonnie Raitt style on slide, give me just any change, I guess, because Dylan's going to play some major chords. And so what normally we would want to do, we just pick, so we're in A. And so I would typically play an A, since he's playing A major chord, I'm going to play the A major pentatonic at least scale, right? So Bonnie will play the minor pentatonic instead, though, with slide. So... Now, here's what it would sound like if I played major. I'm going back to minor. So that's one of the ways you can immediately get into this Bonnie Raitt style is over a major chord. Now, again, notice a lot of the songs of which we played all the chords, they've all been major chords. Even if it was the flat 3 or the flat 7, they were major.
They were major. It's a lot of major
those.
going on here.
But she sticks to the blues notes in her individual choice on playing. So she's playing minor and pentatonic over major chords. And also what she has this, again, you mentioned at the top of the hour, she really takes her time as a storyteller.
Yeah.
Likewise on her solos on slide. So she'll just kind of sweep up to a note and just hold it longer than you think she will. A lot of that. And she'll do it up to the minor third, which is really dramatic. The compression really helps with the sustain on those things. So it really helps her hold these notes out very, very dramatically. And it does. It gives that sense of she's completely in control of everything. She's going to take her time. She's not worried about you running out of the building being bored by her guitar solo, which is very, very captivating.
Yeah. It takes a serious chutzpah.
Was there a specific question on slide? I'm sorry, Daniel. I just want to get that in there.
No, Mara Lee asks if the slide should fit tightly on your finger, and how do you keep from dropping it?
Not too tightly. Just keeping your finger upright for sure.
And buy a few slides when you go to the store.
Yeah, you're definitely gonna want to kind of experience. I would buy, the size. It's gonna be like trying rings on, but a
little bit.
It's gonna be tricky because I would go when you go to the store to buy the slide. Maybe try it out on a guitar while you're at the store.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Now, look, so this is coming off and on pretty easily. So yeah, Marilee, one of the reasons I don't drop it is I don't
do that.
So it's just,
And if you do that, you gotta like hold it.
so I'm like a surgeon after, like when he's scrubbing up before operation here. I'm just keeping my hand up. Like, so no, yeah, you're just gonna keep your hand up all the time. So the way that now it goes off and on pretty easy. So I don't want it so tight that it's gonna, cut off circulation. And frankly, I guess I kind of, when I'm playing, I think my ring finger kind of holds it in place a little bit. So I tend to have it fitting just a little loose, just so I'm comfortable.
See, my slides don't fit that loose like that. Yeah.
Nope.
I don't have them fit that loose. But I want to show you guys, because the major pentatonic is such a big part of this slide soloing, that there's a quick way, if you know minor pentatonic, and most people do.
You want this?
No, it's okay. To be able to get into that. So you use what's called pinky method, right? So if you've got this going, I've got the A minor pentatonic scale, just put your pinky on A, and then finish the pentatonic scale from there. So start as though you started at the 2nd fret, but don't play the 2nd fret. Start at the 5th fret. And that's called, I call it pinky method. Right? And the blue notes in the pentatonic scale and the major pentatonic scale are here. So it's this 5th fret. So it's learning how to take a lick and land on one initially, like just like you learned
Resolved on the root note, right?
When you learned in minor. So those are the ways that you kind of not soiree, because apparently that's the wrong word.
It's not a
sachet into A major pentatonic.
I want a mosey.
You mosey into A major pentatonic.
It's a major mosey.
I hope you mosey in soon though, because the water's warm here in major pentatonic land. There's so much to talk about with this album.
We're out of time.
We could talk about this album for a multitude of episodes, but I mean, if you guys haven't spent some time with this, turn off the TV and turn on the disc player or the AirPod. Is that the right word? AirPod, iPod.
I don't know what the kids
answer,
are using now.
iPod, because I think that sometimes just like putting on a great album like this, it'll take you out. It'll make you feel like there's not as much pressure in life, and then you realize there's not as much pressure in life. If Bonnie can do it, I can.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. That's inspirational.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we want to thank you all for watching. We also want to remind you, if you'd like to support the show, go to our Patreon page. I think the link is probably somewhere below wherever you are. And becoming, we're going to offer you a little behind the scenes stuff, a little extra information, little private lessons, private stuff.
Not the stuff you're thinking. Easy.
Get your mind out of the gutter. Call me later.
Yeah.
And now we will not be here next week. We're not even playing a rerun. We're just, everybody spend some time with your families or go to a ball game.
Yes.
Oh, some really good baseball going on right now. I mean, the Dodgers aren't doing so well right now, but it's okay. So they just have some injuries. They're gonna be fine. Anyway, we'll see you in 2 weeks. And I'm really excited about the month of May. Especially.
We've got serious people lined up.
Yeah, well, we'll loosen them up. But we have some really great players who are really fun people, and we're going to have lots of guests and a lot of familiar faces. So make sure you let the community know, if you know what I mean. We'll see you later. Slide with a whammy. Unrequited chords.
Unrequited chords.
That's right.